Howdy there, I'm Zane Lewis. Today, I'll be telling you the story of a small, forgotten ghost town called Preston that sits deep in the Rocky Mountains, right next to the town of Breckenridge, and is surrounded by some absolutely beautiful scenery and abandoned mines. While some remains of the town can still be found today, much of its history is unknown, but using the information that we have available, we'll rediscover this unknown legend of Colorado. The exact founding date of the town is sadly unknown. However, it definitely existed by 1875, when the Preston post office was moved there from the nearby Delaware Flats. However, it is possible that the town existed in 1874, which is when the Jumbo Mine, located very close to Preston, became increasingly profitable, and some miners, along with their families, appear to have moved to the town site. By 1882, the place had a small population of about 150 people. The next year, the town officially had a produce store, a boarding house for miners, a lumber mill, and the head offices of 2 different mining companies. Throughout the next few years, a dressmaking and millinery shop was opened, and the town attracted the offices of a third mining company. 2 stamp mills were also opened and operated in town, along with a dairy. The produce store developed into a general merchandise store during the same time. On January 18th, 1884, the Preston post office shut down. However, it reopened less than a month later. Throughout the town's short existence, operations there were largely controlled and influenced by a man named John Schock. He was the postmaster of the area, and he ran both the general store and the boarding house. His wife managed the millinery and dressing shop, which was a peculiar business for such a small town. Many miners lived in Preston. They worked at various mines and mills around the town, the most notable being the Jumbo Mine, the Jessie Mine Mill, and the Extension Mill. Silver, gold, and lead ores were mined at the various mines around the town, even after it ceased to exist, all the way from the 1870s into the 1930s. Long after most people had forgotten about the place. By 1888, only about 50 people continued to reside at Preston. The post office was moved to Braddockville in 1889, which wasn't far from Delaware Flats. Sometime after that, by the early 1890s, the population had sunk to about 10 people. I believe that a few people may have still lived at Preston after the 1890s, as the boarding house was still in use. In 1890, the relocated post office, still in Braddockville, finally closed for good. Preston was largely doomed by the success and expansion of the close-by town of Breckenridge, which was able to secure a railroad. Aside from all that, not much is known about Preston or some of the nearby mines and mills, like the Extension Mill. However, considering that we know that there were only about 10 people left in the early 1890s, we can assume that it likely died out soon after that, with the exception of the boarding house, and maybe even a few residents stayed into the early 1900s. So, what remains of the town today? Quite a bit, actually. The former town site can be found along Gold Run Road near Breckenridge. 2 old cabins still exist, although one of them is missing its roof. Judging by all the damage, the roofed house has definitely seen better days. Remains of various other buildings still littered the town site. However, sadly, there aren't any plaques to inform you of what they were. The site's surroundings are stunningly beautiful, with hundreds of trees providing lumber and shade for all. A little bit down the road, the remains of the Extension Mill can be found. Pretty much all of it has collapsed. However, you can still find some interesting stuff, such as this piece of equipment, and this random metal thing just sticking up in the air. Past that, you can find the Jessie Mill, which is an old stamp mill that has been well preserved. It also used to be a mine and was active from 1885 until the 1930s. Besides those, there are a lot of other abandoned mines and ghost towns near Breckenridge, as back in the glory days, the mountains were rich with ores waiting to be mined. I myself originally learned of this town when I was driving along the Gold Run Road, searching for the Jessie Mill in September of 2020, and I just randomly stumbled upon it. It is no doubt one of the prettiest ghost towns I've ever been to, and I was amazed by how much remains. I explored the entire area, even going inside both of the remaining houses. I'm about 6 feet tall, so when I went inside the roofed house, I was having to bend over the entire time because the damn thing was only like 4 or 5 feet tall. How short were Preston's residents? I also had the privilege of getting thorough looks at both the Extension and Jessie Mills. Jessie is one of my all-time favorite abandoned things. Overall, Preston is just one of 1,000 ghost towns in Colorado. Nevertheless, despite not existing for very long, it has become a part of the magnificent history of Colorado, filled with adventure, tragedy, and courage. Thousands risked it all, entering dangerous mine shafts in the beautiful mountains of Colorado, seeking to strike it rich, all to create a better life for themselves and their families. Many mining camps evolved into towns, some of which are still alive and well today. They paved the way for future advancements in mining and other things, and I think their legacy is something that will be remembered for years into the future. Yeah, mining left one heck of a legacy, didn't it? Just over 100 years ago, mines created hundreds of thousands of job opportunities for all. Thousands upon thousands of towns sprang up around them, served by the railroads. They altered the course of American history, and today you can still see them, surrounded by some of the most beautiful scenery you will ever see. And even though Preston may have just been another small ghost town that overall is insignificant to the larger history of Colorado, it still left its mark as a legend of Colorado. I'm Zane Lewis. Thanks for watching.